Hello, my name is Keith Hales with InfoSystems, and welcome to Enterprise Technology Spotlight, where we help business leaders learn about technology topics so they can make better decisions for their business. And today, joining me for our second podcast we're doing today is Tony Owens, who is a senior solutions architect with Aero Electronics, one of our business partners. So, Tony, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you again, Keith, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been really excited personally about this topic for a long time, ever since I've we had the idea to do a session on artificial intelligence, on AI. So I'm gonna do a little bit of an intro because I want to kind of set the stage a little bit. So, you know, the average consumer, the average person in the marketplace, they've heard about AI. They've heard about AI from movies, you know, Skynet and the Terminator. They've heard about AI probably from maybe IBM commercials. They've heard about AI because, you know, they've heard that some big corporation is doing something with it and they think it's cool. But I kind of want to take a step back and say how, you know, kind of define the topic first as it relates to technology and how companies can actually use it and actually get value out of it. So how would you define artificial intelligence for the average business?
Well, you know, it's funny because your introduction of how you introduced this segment probably was one of the best examples for what you do in your podcast is probably one of the best examples of what AI really is doing for a business. It's helping them make better decisions, whether they're investing, whether they're shipping, whether they're, you know, what their market segment is, what their customer base is, what to do next in the business. It's helping them make those decisions and stuff based on not only, you know, limited little bits of information, but all kinds of sources of information that can be pulled together to do that.
So hold on. Are you saying that AI is really data?
AI is driven by data.
AI is driven by data. Okay.
And it uses algorithms, not to get too geeky.
No, go for it. That's why you're here.
But it's basically to take and use machine learning based on different algorithms that we apply to it, to take the data from different sources, compile that together, and to come out with potential business outcomes, you know, the probability of things happening. So it's a little bit like predicting the future almost, kind of.
Okay. So it's taking data, because it's data-driven.
It is very data-driven.
And putting it into some kind of a formula, and I'm not a mathematician, so I'm sure you know more about this topic than I do. And on the output, so the result of that is that the business has more and better information, or maybe information faster.
Well, not just the business, but maybe even consumers. I mean, I would say that most everybody watching this has used and been involved with AI this week, for sure. Because almost...
Now you got to give an example. You can't just throw that out there.
Every one of these customers today, or every one of these people watching, has been on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And they've clicked on something in their box. And then down below it says, hey, other users did this, and we also bundle these things in, or these are things that are recommended to go with that. That's AI driven. Okay. That is completely AI driven. It's based on what Amazon sees as people who buy this also typically are interested in these things, or they want this type of so I'm going to show it to you on the screen. You may not want it. You may not have any interest in it. But based on our calculations of what we see happening, that's what we see happening.
Okay. So a data-driven cross-sell, upsell is an example.
Is an example.
So this is the question that I get often, right? Is, okay, you just referenced Amazon. I referenced IBM earlier. So is this only a big enterprise, Fortune, 100 type solution?
No.
So who's too small? Kind of how far down in the marketplace does AI matter?
So I can tell you, and I've got some actual customer examples and stuff. So there is no customer that's too small, and it's really about what are you doing for your business? How do you want to see your business grow? Because customers that are investing in AI and analytics today are the ones that are going to be around tomorrow. Okay. The ones that aren't are going to get gobbled up by the other ones. And I'll give you an example of this. So, you're in a competing business. You and I, we both sell hammers and stuff. That's all we do. We make hammers and we sell hammers. But if I'm using AI and I'm using to determine when the weather's going to be appropriate, when building's going to be in the right area, and I'm marketing and selling my hammers there, my business is going to become more profitable. And what will eventually happen is I'll just buy your business because you won't have enough of the market share to even stay in business. I'll have expanded and grown and stuff. And that's what we see happening. These smaller companies, even very small companies, are using that information and using, like I said, not only their own data of what they're selling, when they're selling, who they're selling to, but also leveraging outside information, social cues, social media information, weather patterns, weather data and stuff to determine what to sell and when to sell and how to sell and who to market to and what other factors may play into that.
So you just answered my next question, which is what problems are companies trying to solve? So I want to kind of break down maybe a specific problem and then how AI has helped them. So let's take an example of a company that's looking to expand, right? Let's say they're in the Southeast today with their distribution company and they sell a widget, right? They sell coffee cups or something like that. So how could AI help them know, do I go Northeast, do I go Great Lakes, do I go West? Like what's a kind of a practical way that AI could actually help them?
Right. So based on the widget that you sell and the use case for what that widget is used, you could use social media cues, for example. You could, start getting feeds from Facebook and Twitter and other things like that to scan for, are these things prevalent in that territory that I'm at? And then also, depending on what the use case of that widget is, again, going back to the weather, is the weather in that location conducive to that? I mean, if I'm selling, umbrellas in Seattle, well, that's a critical factor because it rains a lot. But if I'm selling it in the Sahara Desert, maybe not as much. Maybe I need it to block the sun. So depending on what the factor is of what my widget does and stuff, there are environmental factors that are going to come into play and stuff.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is AI helps us get to an answer faster, perhaps.
Right. Well, and it can also shape the direction of something we're doing. So we can use sentiment from the marketplace and from the saying, hey, we did this new launch or we did this new product, and what is the feeling on the street coming back from this product? Did they like it? Do they like this color? Or do they wish it was in this thing? We can use that to help shape the direction of our business going forward as to, well, people really like this, but they really want it in red, and we didn't offer it in red. The Henry Ford example, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. Well, maybe people don't want it in black. We can use that sentiment that we're getting from social media and other things to help shape our product direction going forward.
So if I'm a business leader and I've heard a lot of what we've just been talking about, man, it sounds like I could actually use this for social media stuff. I could use kind of the data that I have. I could look at external resources like the weather and other kind of feeds that I could get my hands on, and as opposed to paying somebody hours and hours and hours and hours of time to consult or to compile all this data and come up with an output, AI could help me get faster. So how do I get started? So AI might be a bit of an overwhelming topic for some people. So kind of what are those first key steps that I need to consider when I'm kind of going down this journey?
So really, it really boils down to a couple things. I mean, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? So, and to give you another example, because I think examples are the easiest. You're a sales leader, right? You have a sales team you're managing and stuff. And maybe I just want to know, I want to get faster time to data of what's selling, who's selling, what areas are selling, and what factors maybe influence that. That may be all that's important to you. So that may be the area that you're going to focus in on and getting that kind of important information. But for someone else, it may be, like we said, I may be looking to expand. And what factors are going to play into my expansion? What products are going to do well in that marketplace based on other things that are going in? And so depending on what I'm trying to accomplish with it. And another good example is like security. Everybody's starting to become more and more conscious. I mean, we've got schools and lockdowns and stuff. You think about things like that. If I'm conscious about wanting to protect a building from, say, somebody coming in with a weapon or something like that, maybe I'm looking at software that can do that and analyze it quicker than, I don't want them to get to the door to hit the metal detector before it goes off. I want to be able to detect based on an image of them walking up whether there's a good possibility that they may have something on them.
Okay, so the first step is define the problem. Any problem solving, right? We have to define the problem. But then as it relates to technology decisions, right? What are some of those key technology aspects I need to consider? I mean, am I concerned about, we were just talking about storage on the last podcast. Am I concerned about my compute? Am I concerned about what are those things I need to even be asking questions?
We'll be back with the Enterprise Tech Spotlight podcast after we pause for this special message. Have your IT projects created stress on your team over the last few years? More than half of IT professionals say they are burned out at work. IT departments are under constant pressure to keep systems running while completing IT projects on time and under budget. And they often report that they're understaffed and underfunded. InfoSystems is now offering free IT project review sessions. Kick off your 2020 IT projects the right way. If you're planning or considering some type of IT project, software, networks, servers, storage, phones, and want to get an unbiased and accurate understanding of the skills, time, and cost required to make it happen, this is the perfect first step to take. Our expert project team will help make sure you don't miss important details, waste money, or overestimate your capabilities. Visit the InfoSystems website at www.infosystems.biz to request your IT project review. Now back to the podcast.
So obviously, anytime you start talking about analytics or AI, you're going to be talking about storage because you're keeping all your data. So all of your data that you already got, but you may want other sources of data coming in as well, and then kind of categorizing that data and figuring out what it is. So there's going to be some additional componentry that you're going to need in your environment as well. But a lot of that's going to be driven by particularly what type of solution you're going on. And I give an example when we were talking about, maybe you've got a manufacturing plant and what you're really looking at is saving on spoilage, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're wanting to analyze the production line as it's going down. So that's a video type of thing. So you're going to be capturing snapshots. You're going to be taking lots of pictures. You're going to be storing that information. You're going to be doing modeling off of that. So obviously there's going to be the cost of, cameras and storage space and things like that. So depending on which solution you're looking to or what area you're looking to go into will kind of drive some of that, what additional things. But no, pretty much on any of them, you're going to need more storage.
All right. So you're going to need more storage. You're going to need a database of some kind, and it could be pictures, it could be images, or it could be, data sets, but you're going to need some kind of of database to process through to build.
Well, be careful in the database term, because the other side of it, which is the unstructured data, all the data coming in from social media and all that, that's not in any kind of database. It's just files of data coming in. It's what we call unstructured data. And it's just going to go into maybe a Hadoop database or a Spark or something like that we're going to use to hold this information. It's not a database per se. It's just a collection of this information. And then we're going to categorize it and classify it and stuff with, technology. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that a lot of the data scientists, if you will, spend a lot of time. I mean, about 60 to 80% of data scientists' time is spent categorizing and classifying and quantifying the data that we have. But there is software that can do that for us.
Yeah, so that's a key point, because if I'm a business leader, if I'm responsible for things like budgets, and I know that data scientists are not cheap people to hire and employ, and you just said that 60 to 80% of their time is categorizing data, wait a minute. That feels like I might be paying them for the wrong thing.
So you're going to have different levels of data scientists. Okay. You're going to have kind of your entry guy that's doing some of your data classification and stuff like that. But again, like I said, there's software. So IBM's got a software out there called IBM Spectrum Discover, and it works not only on IBM product lines, but across other vendors as well and stuff. And it actually goes through and looks at the data and does the classification, does all that metadata discovery for you, makes it indexable and searchable, does a lot of what a data, those first stages of what a data scientist would do. And it's just a software that runs in the background continuously that does it automatically as the data comes in. So there are simplification that you can do in the avenue of moving towards AI and analytics and stuff.
So yeah, simplification, absolutely, but also a higher return on investment. Because again,
cost savings.
Yeah, if I'm, I know people are not cheap.
Right.
And good people, and I want, if I'm an employer, not only do I want to get the highest return, but I want people to be happy, right? And so if they're spending so much of their time
crunching
tagging
data.
files and renaming stuff and dragging them over to this folder.
It's not what they
That's
really
gotta
want to be doing.
frustrating.
Exactly. It's like, working at the DMV, and not to insult anybody that works at the DMV, but every day you're coming in and doing the same thing, and that 90% of your time is spent doing this thing that's not really what you're excited about. You want to get in and you want to write the next model. You want to do the data processing. You want to see the results, and then you want to refine your model and do more processing. You don't want to be sitting out there dealing with, I've got to draw a picture around, your face and say, hey, that's Keith. No, I don't want to do that. I want a system to do that for me, or software to do that for me.
So there's software that can actually aid these people.
Absolutely.
And help the process. Are there also technologies out there? Because every time you're talking about large amounts of data, the risk compliance side of me, because I have a little bit of that responsibility, is saying, ooh, wait a minute, I'm exposing all this data. Is there a risk if I dump the wrong data in my database, or maybe data that it needs to be protected, like maybe HIPAA data or PCI? Can I even use it? Am I better off not
right? Do I have to cleanse it? Do I have
how does that work?
So that's one of the big things. What I said, those data scientists or the software that's doing that metadata discovery, number one, that's also what it's also doing, is it's identifying, hey, this is PI data, or personal identifiable data and stuff, or this is the type of data that could get you in trouble with GDPR or other kind of compliance, and California's done a similar thing as well. So discovering that and figuring that out and having that information available to you when you start choosing your data sets can really be helpful and stuff. And again, that's where software can come in to help you a lot with that, because again, dealing with all the different compliancy regulations and stuff is pretty much a nightmare to have to do. I prefer to have software help me with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've recently been doing some AI training inside of InfoSystems, and one of the things that keeps coming up is this idea of helping the data scientists focus on what they actually want to be spending their time on. So that data collection and categorizing and cleansing and prep, it's really prep work is what it is. That's one thing. And then there's the whole nother step of actually like processing the data,
right?
Kind of running
data transformation.
Yeah, the machine learning you referenced earlier. So are there tools available to help speed up that process? Because I know of several companies that just move these files out to AWS and run them, and they might push play on the model and it run for an hour or a day or a week. And so that seems like that's a lot of time. Are there tools out there that can speed that up?
Absolutely. So, so one of the things, you and I were talking before we started today and stuff, IBM's been doing AI for a long time. They're kind of a leader in that market space. When you look at what Gardner and other people are saying about that, because IBM's made a lot of investment in that space and has been involved in it for so long, they've got a lot of software that helps to shortcut the process. So, for example, we were talking about if I'm monitoring production manufacturing lines and I want to see that IBM's got a product called Power AI Vision. It's kind of completely designed around that, and it's a solution in a box almost to an extent. Makes the work of what a data scientist has to do to start seeing results very quick and efficient to do so. But there's other software that IBM has bundled in with some of their Watson and other things like that, where they've taken a lot of the open source type technologies that are out there in the marketplace, bundled it together, put it together in a working order to where it's easier and simpler for a customer to get started. Because as we started earlier, where do I get started at?
Yeah.
When I look at all the different products that are out there, how do I even begin? Yeah. And that's really kind of the key of it, is getting all the open source frameworks together that you need in a working order to begin the process.
So I'm going to restate just to try to condense this down, so be sure I say this right. There's tools that can kind of help at every step along the way, whether it's getting started, whether it is actually you have a mature team and you need to get more out of them, or you want to make their days better.
Exactly.
I mean, that's probably as big of a part of it too, because you don't want to lose these high value individuals as well to another place. But then also, it sounds like the compliance side and the risk mitigation, there's tools out there. And so I guess it's a silly question, but if a customer ever reached out to us or a prospect or just a company had questions, I mean, I'm assuming we can connect them with you and help a company guide through this process. And,
well, and we have special, so IBM makes there's a geographic team and stuff in the area and stuff that actually has specialists that focus on the AI side of things. So we definitely have, the keys to the kingdom, if you will, of reaching into IBM to actually pull additional resources and stuff. And there's even, workshops and stuff that can be arranged for customers and stuff that are interested in going through AI.
Yeah. So one final point that I'll make is I use the term journey, and I guess I wanted to explain that is I don't, like most things in business, it's not an end goal. AI is just kind of, I think once a company decides to invest in it, it will be one of these ongoing things that they continue to both invest in and get returns on, obviously, if they're going to continue to invest. But it is something that is a journey that has, we can help at many steps along the way, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make is, hey, as you start, no matter whether you've started and you have no idea, or you're way down the road, you're multiple years in, you kind of hit all these bottlenecks in your current systems and processes. That's something that InfoSystems and obviously Arrow and IBM can help us with. So before I kind of go, is there anything else? I'm sure I'm leaving out some key piece of wisdom. I always want to, Tony, you've been doing this a while, so what am I forgetting about here?
I think the important thing is kind of extending what you just said about the journey, and that is if you haven't started the journey, or if you don't have plans to currently start in the journey, reaching out to InfoSystems and stuff and getting started, because if you're not, you're probably closer to being out of business than you are in making the next leap forward. And that's really what we're seeing. I mean, when we start to look at where business is going today, that return on value of your data is the most valuable asset you have. And I joke all the time, you've seen me do this when I come into things. I tell people, take out their phone, take out their computer, look at the oldest file on your device. It predates your device. We as individuals don't delete any data. Companies don't either. And we're now starting to discover that data has value. And how can we glean that value from that data? That's the journey to AI. And that's the point we're at. Either you start the journey today or your competitors are going to be miles and leaps ahead of you.
Well, Tony, thanks for joining us. And I just want to thank all of our listeners today and the viewers for joining us on this podcast. And hopefully Tony might be able to stick around. We might do one more before he has to head out. So please join us next time on the next Enterprise Technology Spotlight, and hope you have a great rest of your day.